Hello and welcome to this Locize demo. In this video, we'll present some of the Locize features. Locize tries to bridge the gap between translation and development by optimizing the translation management for everyone. We've already helped a lot of happy customers to bring their localization process to the next level. Locize not only exceeds with its continuous localization capabilities, but can also be used in classic environments. It works for every type of software project. Websites and web apps, mobile apps, video games, desktop applications, distributed cloud platforms, marketing or landing pages, and so on. There is also always the option to consume our API directly or to use our CLI. One of the most common project types nowadays are front-end frameworks such as React, Angular, and Vue. So for today's demonstration, we will use a React app that was already created in a tutorial. So let's start by registering to Locize. Just fill in your first name, last name, email address, then define a username and a password, and sign up. To sign in, just enter the username and the password you've chosen before, and you're ready to go. Nice, the first step is done. Now let's create our first project. The project's name, the company's name, and an optional URL helps to describe the project. Let's choose the source language, in our case it's English. And because you're using an IA18 Next-based code project, we choose it as IA18N format. Okay, the project is now created, but we need to define some target languages. To do so, let's check which languages are currently used in our example project. It seems beside English there are German translations. Seems like a normal IA18 Next project that looks like this. A language switcher, some texts, and there is also an interpolated counter that counts the language switches. Okay, let's go back to Locize. We can add the additional target language German here. Or we could also add it here in the settings. Here on the settings page, we can also define all other settings. But first of all, we next need a namespace. A namespace is like a file or group of translations. It can be added here, or we can also import our first file to create the first namespace automatically. So let's import the first file. In our code project, let's pick the English translations. A various list of file formats are supported. Here we have a JSON file. We're seeing it automatically suggests to create a new namespace with the file name as name. Okay, go for it. The translations are not yet imported, but the global view just opened and we can review if everything is as expected before saving it. In this view we can also import other files or export the existing namespace to specific file format. All okay? Then save. By switching back to the control center view, we can see 50% is translated, because English is 100% imported but German not yet. We're gonna change this now, but with an alternative import option, with the Locize CLI. The Locize CLI has various features, like modifying keys or download all translations, but one of the most important features is the sync command. Let's use the synchronization command to import the rest of our translations. Okay, let's install the CLI via npm, globally or locally. Here, locally is enough because we execute the CLI sync command in an npm script. So, which argument does the sync command offer? Let's see. Okay, we use the path argument to point to the localhost location, the project ID, and the API key. By default, only the changes in the reference language are uploaded to Locize, but here we explicitly want to import everything, so we need to set the reference language only argument to false. Now we need the actual project ID value. On the settings page, it can easily be copied. And now also the API key. That's it. Let's run that and check the result. Oh, it's adding the German translations and detected no change for the English translations because we manually imported them before. And how does the Locize UI now look like after a refresh? 100%! Yes, the German translations are here. It seems there are 50 words for German. And in the global view? Awesome! Everything is here. Until now, we did no real code change. We just synchronized the translations in our code with Locize. We could keep it like that, but we want to unleash more Locize features. So let's remove the sync script again and install i18next Locize backend. In that example project, we already were using i18next HTTP backend, so we just need to replace that with i18next Locize backend. Define some Locize options: project ID, API key, reference language, version, and pass these options to i18next. Again, let's copy the project ID and save it in our environment file, and the same for the API key. When starting the app, we should not see any changes, but the translations are now not coming from our public locals folder, but directly from the Locize CDN. Okay, so let's extend the app. There is a save missing feature in i18next that is used when the app does not run in production. So what happens if we just call the i18next t function with a non-existing key? We can also make use of the second argument of the t function to pass in a default value in case there is no key found. Okay, the app shows the default value, and Locize, when opening the global view and filtering for created by missing API, already contains that key with the default value. Okay, let's quickly machine translate the German segment, save, and check our React app. Wow, the German translations are already here, but the German machine translation is not that correct. So let's correct it. Instead of Urtum, Locize. And save. Back to our React app, refresh the page, and here it is. Welcome to continuous localization. There's an automatic machine translation feature in Locize that automatically translates new translation keys in all target languages. Let's use this feature to optimize our workflow. In the settings page, we can enable this feature. Then, let's create another new key in our app. Like before, the default value is shown in the example app, and when switching the language to German, we can already see the German translation for it without having to go to Locize. Yes, the translation is there, and the yellow icon shows us it was machine translated. Next to the global view, there's also the in-context view. What's this? It brings our web app closer to the Locize project. With a tiny script clicking on a text element in our example app, it will search for the text in Locize to edit it directly there. The script is also available as i18 Next plugin. So let's try. As usual, install it via npm. Import it and pass it to i18 Next. Finally, start the app again and insert the URL in the in-context view of Locize. Clicking on a text element immediately shows and selects the appropriate segment in Locize. Let's change a key value, save it, and refresh the iframe. Nice, isn't it? Let's do it again. But there's more. We can bind the editor saved event and then, after clicking the save button, there is no more need to refresh the iframe anymore. Another option to use context information in Locize can be done with context information per translation key. For this, we navigate to the focus view, and here we find the option to define some custom context information which can be helpful when translating. The focus view offers more detailed information per translation segment and is probably better suited for a longer translation session. There's an optional filter with which you'll be able to find and filter what keys are used or not used anymore. That filter will be available when using the Locize last used script or when directly using the API. It uses the similar options we already used for the i18 Next Locize backend plugin. So again, let's install it via npm, import it, and pass it to i18 Next if not in production. As said, the same Locize options can be reused. Now, during development, when the app is running, after 1 to 2 minutes, it will send the appropriate information to Locize. Then, in Locize, the Not Used For filter will be available. It's common to have different deployment environments while developing software, so you can also have multiple versions in Locize. Then let's set up a production version. What should be done to go to production? We suggest to not add any API key in a production build, avoid using the save missing feature, consider to enable caching. Let's start with that first. We update the version settings by setting a cache duration. But there is still no content in the production version. Can we do some sort of version merging? Of course! There are two options: copy from to version and overwrite version. Overwrite will create an exact translation version copy. Copy to will open the global view and show the differences to give more control what should be copied and what not. We're choosing overwrite and confirm our choice by also publishing that production version. Okay, now the production version has the same translation keys as the latest version. We'll now set the production version in our app's environment settings for the production build. Using the text feature can be a good way to design your custom translation workflow. Text can be defined on the settings page. There are 8 color slots you can use to define specific text. Let's set some. Now we should be able to use them. For example, in the global view. On the right side of each translation segment, there are dots with the color of the appropriate tags. Having marked segments with a tag, we can filter by them. There's also the possibility to invert the tag filter and filter for segments not having a particular tag. All this is also possible in the focus view. Select the segment and mark it with the appropriate tag. And another one. You can save individual changes or all at once. Also in this view we can filter by tags, like we've done in the global view. Now that we have defined some tags, let's invite our team members to the Locize project. Let's navigate to the users page. Here we can modify the permissions of the existing project users. We can enforce only users having multi-factor authentication enabled to have access to the project. There are some user statistics. And there is the possibility to create an open invitation link. You can share that link and everyone can register and be part of the project. Or create a specific invitation sent via email to a particular user. As an alternative to marking segments with review-related tags, there is also the option of specific review workflows. This looks like the following. First, let's add a new language. Now, in the global view, we rapidly machine translate everything for Italian. Okay, let's enable the review workflow now. We choose Italian to be enabled for the review workflow. Let's navigate back to the global view. This is a warning issue. We will talk about that in a moment. But now, let's change an Italian translation. Each time someone changes a translation, it will start a review workflow. So here we have 2 pending reviews. Let's decline one and accept the other. Navigating to the focus view, we can see new entries in the history of this segment. This whole review workflow also works here in the focus view. You can also decline all pending reviews. Before, we already hit a warning. But what is that? Locize helps to keep our translations free of issues and inconsistencies by performing some checks. Okay, let's generate some issues to illustrate how this works. For example, a key with incorrect nesting. There is already a key with name another key. Now let's create a new key named another key.wrong. Already here a warning is shown, but let's save that anyway. In the focus view, For each segment, there is a special tab on the right side. Checking for the original key, we should not find any issues. But checking for the new key, we now see issue 420 is detected and the key is marked to have issues. Let's generate another issue. There's the possibility to add a character limit per segment. This can be defined in the source language key. Switching now to a target language and entering more characters than expected will immediately generate the issue 310, saying the text is longer than the defined character limit. Okay, let's go back to the source language and change the translation. Back to the target language and checking for issues, the issue 302 is detected. This means the translation may need to be checked if still correct. If all is okay, the translation can be confirmed. All the issues can also be filtered in the global view. Let's fix these 302 issues. We are going to fix the lost one by updating the translations instead of confirming the existing one. And because this language is enabled for the review workflow, a review has automatically been generated. OK, accept and save. Alright, no warnings anymore. With the Smart Translation Memory feature of Locize, you can reuse already translated text. This is best shown if using multiple Locize projects, for example, one for frontend and one for the backend. I've created a second project and I want to use the first example project as translation memory for the second one. So let's go to the settings page of the second project and select the first project as appropriate translation memory. Now let's try how this works. We will create a new key here with the source value learn react. Then we switch to the focus view and select the target language. Finally, let's check here in the machine translation tab. In the first section we see Locize found the same or similar content in the other project, and that could now be used. We just have to click on it. That's it. You can work with translators in different ways. You can use an integrated translation service like Locize, or a more classic way, you can export the files and send them to your translators via email. If you like, you can also invite the translators directly to your Locize project by giving them the appropriate permissions. Or you can create a branch project based on your Locize project which includes only the pending translation keys and invite them there. Let's add another new language to our project. That language is now still empty. So here there is the option to create a branch project. Check out the suggested video about this workflow with all relevant steps. Another option is to use the integrated translation services like Locize. In this example, we've already set up the Locize integration, which is even more flexible and transparent to order translations with. Just click on New Order, select your desired options, and you're good to go. Please check out also the suggested video about this workflow with all relevant steps. But Locize offers a lot more and is continuously extended and optimized. There is a dedicated health and metrics section with a focus for developers, containing useful information to optimize the technical Locize integration. CDN downloads, informations, different types of API requests done, and so on. Basic metrics are also available on each scope level: version, language, and namespace. There are also automatically generated namespace backups. Last but not least, the billing and subscription section. By default, you can subscribe via credit card, and if having already a subscribed project, you can also consolidate various projects in one collective billing. For bigger projects, there's also the option to subscribe using bank transfer. Thank you very much for your attention. We are happy if you try out Locize and would love to welcome you as our customer.